question first before we go any further, folks. Can everybody hear me? If you cannot hear me, would you raise your hands, please? Hey, this is going to be a good crowd. This is going to be a good crowd. Question, actually a couple of them for you. How has your day been thus far? Great, good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Are you ready for a little fun? Are you ready for a little to possibly a lot of laughter about halfway through my presentation? Yes, yes. By a show of hands, how many say yes? By a show of hands, how many think no? Oh. By a show of hands, how many really don't care? Hey, we have your addresses, folks. Actually, here's another question I'd like to ask you. In all seriousness, really, isn't it fun to laugh? Another question. Healthy too. You are 100% correct. As a matter of fact, I'm very glad you said that, sir, because scientific studies now prove that laughter actually contributes to one's well-being and health. It's a proven fact. If you laugh a little to a lot every day, things really change for the better. And that's your health, that's your energy, that's your spirit. We're finding now that it's all interconnected. Another question. By a show of hands, when was the last time you had a good laugh? Actually, did you have a good laugh, let's say within the last 24 hours? I mean, a really good, healthy laugh. Wonderful. Did you have a good laugh within the last 3 days? Uh-huh. How about the last 7 days? How about the last month? How many of you have not laughed for quite some time? Well, I hope you will do a lot of that here today. Actually, this is, as Carrie said, and thank you for the introduction, Carrie, a presentation that I've been doing for many years called That Is My Story, and I'm sticking to it. About the first half is factual, but I hope you'll find that interesting. And the second half is fun. Just a lot of fun, where I hope your health will improve by laughing quite a bit. Speaking of laughter and humor, there are a couple of very important quotes that I'd actually like to share with you before we go any further. First one, 7 days without laughter make one weak. Next one. You don't stop laughing because you grow old. You grow old because you stop laughing. Next one. What soap is to the body, laughter is to the soul. I like that one too. And finally, carry laughter with you wherever you go. And that's something I hope to leave you with today. So, folks, I'm sure you'll agree that it's a pretty interesting world that we live in nowadays. And every so often, there's some very amazing facts, sometimes in the form of trivia, that tend to address you throughout your day. And those types of facts and trivia sort of make you stand back and go, I didn't know that. That's rather interesting. Well, I've compiled some of that for you, and will present it for you. And again, I hope you will enjoy it. Before I go any further, I'd like to preface everything by saying this. Everything you will hear during my presentation this afternoon is more than interesting but useless information, but it is actually true. Actually true. And I've broken it down into categories. That actually is the first one. We'll start off with interesting but fairly useless information. Then we will go on to incredible origin of everyday things. We'll move then to unheard of state statutes. Then we'll move to totally ridiculous news headlines. Then interesting things that make you go, Everybody, Ooh, this is a good crowd. Yeah, you were right. You were right. Then we move on to hilarious classified newspaper ads, and then we'll come to a crashing close with unbelievable church bulletin items. That's good. You're already starting to laugh, and we just barely started. So, the first category, as I said, is interesting but fairly useless information. I'd like to start out with a question for you. What do you think Pasadena, California is most famous for? Very good. Yes, it is definitely the Rose Bowl and the Rose Bowl Parade. Anyone want to guess what the average number of flowers used on a Rose Bowl Parade float might be? Just shout it out.
4 million.
Huh? 5 million. Ooh, on one float. When was the last time you went to the Rose Bowl Parade? Who has been to the Rose Bowl Parade? Wow, who has seen it on television? My goodness, very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much and have a good afternoon. Actually, to answer my question that I just posed you, the actual number of roses used on a float in the Tournament of Roses Parade differs depending on the size and complexity of the float, but a float in the parade can have anywhere between 30,000 to over 150,000 flowers. How long does it take to put all of those blooms on a float, you might ask? Well, how long do you think? I hear it over here. Less than 24 hours. It takes approximately 700 to 900 hours of labor to put the flowers on a float. Each and every square inch of every float has to be covered with flowers, leaves, seeds, or bark. When is this work done? Yes, right before. Actually, it's done between Christmas and New Year's Day. And during this time, of course, a corps of volunteers has to glue each and every, think about this now, each and every flower to a float, sometimes one petal at a time. Do we have any volunteers? How many would like to consider doing such a thing? How many really realize it's not for them? How many couldn't care less? Hey, okay. A single rose float, folks, is decorated with more flowers than the average florist will use in no less than 5 years. The festival began in the 1890s. In 1900, the festival included the parade as we know it today, ostrich races, bronco busting, and a race between a camel and an elephant. Actually, we're going to have one of those here this afternoon. That's why this whole area is clear. What do you say, folks? Now, question. Which do you think of those won the race? By a show of hands, how many think it was the camel? By a show of hands, how many think it was the elephant? The elephant won the race. Aren't you glad you came here today? She is on the edge of her seat. This is quite amazing. Now, of course, over 1 million spectators come to Pasadena to watch this incredible parade each and every year. So here's the next topic, folks, in my first category, interesting but useless information, and I'll start this off with a question. How tall do you think the average American is? 6 foot. 5'10", 5'8". The average height of an American male is 5'9". The average height of an American female is 5'4". Then who, did you get it right? What? You're average. Very good. Very good. Who do you think, then, are the tallest people in the world, since Americans do not seem to hold that particular title? Who do you think? The Dutch. Huh. Ethiopians. Actually, folks, it's people in Sweden. In Sweden, they are a ½ inch taller than us Americans. And get this, the average Swedish female is much taller than the average Asian male. The tallest man in the world was an American, though. His name, anybody know? Some people, oh yes, I heard somebody say the name. Very good. No, you're kind of close. You got the first name right. Robert Wadlow. You are 100% right. Robert Pershing Wadlow. Where was he from? Alton, Illinois. You bet. He was over 8 feet 11 inches tall, folks. There was also a fellow named Chang who lived in England. Chang himself was 8 feet tall. He had a table in his house that was made especially for him that was 5 feet tall. The doors and windows of his house had to be enlarged, and it is said when Chang would walk down the streets at night, he would light his cigar from the gas streetlights. And if that isn't enough, here is more interesting but useless information in a section that I call, Did You Know? Did you know, folks, that the face of the Statue of Liberty was the mother of the French sculptor who designed it? Did you know that sunglasses date back to the 15th century in China, where they were worn by judges to conceal their expressions while presiding over court? Not a bad idea, huh? Did you know that there is a city called Rome on every continent? Where is the largest McDonald's? Beijing. Very good. Boy, this is an incredible crowd. If you didn't hear what he said, he's 100% right. Beijing. Beijing. It measures, folks, more than 28,000 square feet, seats no less than 700 patrons, and has 2 kitchens and no less than 29 registers. Did you know, folks, I love this one, that in 1962, schools in Tanganyika, Africa, had to be closed because of an outbreak of contagious laughter that lasted no less than 6 months. That's right, Johnny Carson would have been proud. You are right. Did you know that women blink nearly twice as much as men? Did you know that a giraffe can clean its ears with its 21-inch tongue? There's some more people over here who are glad they came today. Of course, my dear, I understand. Did you know, folks, that the Bible is the most shoplifted book in the world? Did you know that the can opener was invented 48 years after the can? I love this one. I love this next one. Did you know that the chances of you dying on the way to get your lottery tickets is far greater than your chances of winning? Did you know that the trucking company Elvis Presley worked at as a young man was owned by none other than Frank Sinatra? Love this next one. Let me see if you might not as well. Did you know that in ancient China, doctors could receive fees only if their patient was cured? Mm-hmm. And folks, We're going to stir up some trouble here now. If that isn't enough, get this. If the patient deteriorated, the doctor would have to pay the patient. How about that? You better believe it. Yes. Did you know that the first flushing toilet existed almost 4,000 years ago at the Minoan Palace of Knossos on the Isle of Crete? Did you know that the custom of shaking hands with strangers originated because it was often necessary to show that both parties were unarmed? So, with that, folks, let's move on to incredible origins of everyday things. We're just going to talk about one thing before we move to the next topic. That's going to be the dishwasher. The dishwasher. By show of hands, how many of you have a dishwasher in your humble abode? There you go. Most of you. Were you ever curious where it came from? What the origin of it was? Well, wait no longer, folks. Your lucky day has finally arrived. I wonder if you can think of a period of time when dishwashing was not an issue. It always has been, but when it first became an issue was actually in the 1700s when porcelain dishes became prominent. So, what was the problem with that, you might ask? Porcelain, folks, would do what? Break, of course. And break these dishes did, more often than not. So, what to do? Create a device that washes dishes for you so you or your help don't have to constantly worry about replacing broken dishes. The first patent for something that even remotely resembled a dishwasher dates back to, believe it or not, 1850. 1850. That machine was made of wood, and as you probably can imagine, certainly not very practical. A Frenchman tried his hand at inventing another dishwasher type of device after that, but it didn't take off. All the while, folks, an Illinois society lady who was famous for throwing very lavish and extravagant parties, was getting sick and tired of what? Not she, oh come on. She would not wash dishes, but her servants did, and they broke a heck of a lot of them. They were constantly breaking her fine china. Everybody go, oh, that's right. She shopped. And she shopped some more for dishwasher types of devices, but none were to be found. All right, enough is enough, she said one day. If no one else is going to take the time to invent a practical dishwasher that all of us can use, you know what? I will. And so Josephine Cochrane did. That summer, Josephine took to her garden shed on her estate and got to work. Weeks later, a major unveiling took place, folks. Josephine flung open the creaky doors of her woodshed to the entire world when she proudly presented. James, could we have a drum roll, please? Thank you. Oh, there's a band behind there. You didn't know? Yeah, they're all ready and waiting. She presented the Cochrane dishwasher. Her guests at that function, just like you of this presentation, were absolutely stunned, in awe, and in wonderment. What they were looking at was a box-like machine that featured twisted wire-type racks to hold crockery and a large wheel that was turned by a motor that would hold dishes. Hot, soapy water squirted from the bottom of this contraption and showered over the plates and the crockery. Josephine's guests were incredibly impressed. Her staff got down on their knees and thanked God for this contraption because she would stop now yelling at them every time they broke dishes. Josephine patented this dishwashing device in 1886. She also started to sell this device to friends, associates, hotels, and various restaurants. When the Chicago World's Fair opened its doors to the world in 1893, Josephine was there, standing proud, right by her famed dishwasher. Which brings us to unheard of state statutes. No matter what state you come from, and tell me what state you do come from. Everybody just shout it out loud all at once. Oh, we've got a very good representation here. Yes, I heard each one of you. But no matter what you shouted, you may or may not know that each and every state in the Union has a series of statutes or laws in the books that each and every resident of that state must follow. I wonder how many of you actually know how totally ridiculous some of those statutes actually are. And to prove my point, just listen to this. In Idaho, there is a statute that states that it is illegal for a man to give his wife or girlfriend a box of candy weighing less than 50 pounds. In Alabama, it is illegal for a driver to be blindfolded while operating a vehicle. In Kentucky, it is illegal to transport an ice cream cone in your pocket. In New Jersey, once you've been convicted of driving while intoxicated, you may never again apply for personalized license plates. In Tennessee, folks, it is illegal to use a lasso to catch a fish. In Virginia, it is unlawful for chickens to lay eggs before 8 a.m. and after 4 p.m., yes. In California, no unoccupied vehicle may exceed 60 miles per hour. I mean, it's only sensible, don't you think? And you know what, folks? This madness doesn't exist only in the United States. It's international, too. Here are a couple of examples. In Canada, you may not pay for an item that costs less than 50 cents with only pennies. In Sweden, prostitution is legal. However, it is illegal to use the services of a prostitute. And here is my personal favorite. In Israel, it is illegal to pick your nose on the Sabbath. Now we move to totally ridiculous news headlines. What follows, folks, are actual newspaper headlines taken from the nation's best and finest newspapers, but it's important to remember that it is the double meaning of these headlines that makes them so very interesting. Here we go. First newspaper headline, actual newspaper headline. New study of obesity looks for larger test group. Two convicts evade noose, jury hung. Deaf-mute gets new hearing in killing. Statistics show that teen pregnancy drops off after age 25. Some of you have wonderful laughs. That's so good to hear. Next headline for you. Man recovering after fatal accident. Next one. Sex education delayed. Teachers request training. Woman denies committing suicide. Love this one. Filming in cemetery angers residents. Next one. Kids make nutritious snacks. Next up, we have this. Panda mating fails. Veterinarian takes over. Man struck by lightning faces battery charge. And finally, astronaut takes blame for gas in spacecraft. Actually, I'm going to give you two more. Love this one. Queen Mary having bottom scraped. So you'll have to look at the screen for this next one. This is an actual image that appeared in a newspaper. If you can't read that from where you're sitting, this is the headline under that actual image, and it goes like this. This is an artist's conception of the Mount Pleasant High School football field Friday after an electrical transformer blew, knocking out the stadium lights. Ladies, you can travel with me anytime. Next up, nothing too funny about this, but I think you'll find this very interesting. This next category, as you can see, is called things that make you go, Get this, folks, all 100% true. Abraham Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. John F. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1680. John F. Kennedy was elected president, 1860. You're 100% right. Just seeing if you're still with me, you know. I mean, it's a lot of facts you have to present, you see. So let me take that again. Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1680. No, just seeing if you're still there, you know. He was elected in 1860. John F. Kennedy was elected president in 1960. The names Lincoln and Kennedy each contain 7 letters. Both were particularly concerned with civil rights. Both their wives lost their children while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday. Both were shot in the head. Both were shot in the presence of their wives. The secretary of each president warned them not to go to the theater and to Dallas, respectively. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy. Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both presidents were assassinated by Southerners. Both were succeeded by Southerners. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908. Both assassins were known by their 3 names. John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln, was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated Kennedy, was born in 1939. Both have names with 15 letters. Booth ran from the theater and was captured in a warehouse. Oswald ran from the warehouse and was captured in a theater. To cap it all off, folks, Booth and Oswald were assassinated before their trials. Interesting, huh? Things that make you go, Let's move on to hilarious classified newspaper ads. Here we go. Hummel's largest selection ever. If it's in stock, we have it. Next one. Publicize your business absolutely free. Send $10. Now is your chance to have your ears pierced and get an extra pair to take home too. Tired of cleaning yourself? Let me do it. Dog needs good home, eats anything, and is fond of children. Our bikinis are exciting. They are simply the tops. Illiterate? Write today for free help. Semi-annual Christmas sale. Love this one. Nice parachute, never opened, used once, slightly stained. Next up we have this. Dentist receives plaque. And finally in this section, a Manna washer, $100. Owned by clean bachelor who seldom washed. And finally, folks, the last category for the afternoon. Can we have a round of applause for the last category? Outstanding, I say. And here we go. This is unbelievable but true church bulletins. First one. Sermon this morning, Jesus walks on water. Sermon tonight, searching for Jesus. Next one. The fasting and prayer conference includes meals. Don't let worry kill you off. Let the church help. Next Thursday, there will be tryouts for the choir. They need all the help they can get. Potluck supper Sunday at 5 p.m. Prayer and medication to follow. Please place your donation in the envelope along with the deceased person you want remembered. Next up, we have this. The Bean Supper will be held on Tuesday evening in the church hall. Music will follow. Next up, the peacemaking meeting scheduled for today has been canceled due to a conflict. Bertha Belch, a wonderful missionary from Africa, will be speaking tonight at Calvary Methodist. Come hear Bertha Belch all the way from Africa. Isn't it wonderful to laugh? Next up, for those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. Barbara remains in the hospital and needs blood donors for more transfusions. She is also having trouble sleeping and requests tapes of Pastor Jack's sermons. The associate minister unveiled the church's new tithing campaign slogan last Sunday. I upped my pledge, up yours. Wednesday, the ladies' liturgy will meet. Mrs. Johnson will sing, "Put Me in My Little Bed," accompanied by the pastor. And last, but certainly not least, how could we forget this one? This being Easter Sunday, we will ask Mrs. Lewis to come forward and lay an egg on the altar. So folks, this brings us back to where we began, and the quote, which was the last one that I shared with you, it's the last thing that I'd like to leave you with today. But before I do, question. Did you have a good time at this presentation this afternoon? Good. Good. Very glad to hear it. And again, just remember and never forget how good it feels to smile, how great it feels to laugh, because we all need to do just a little bit more of it. Always remember to carry laughter with you wherever you go. Carry it with you as you leave this afternoon into the rest of your day, your week, your month, your year, and so on. Thank you so much for letting me entertain you this afternoon. Bless you, everybody. Bye-bye.